Well, hey YouTube, it's Petey, and I just wanted to tell this story. It was something interesting. I ran into these cables and I didn't know. The older speaker cables, they use this type of connector, so you could end up with, I mean, this is rare, but I ended up with two cables and I didn't know. Are they speaker cables or are they instrument cables? Because you don't want to confuse them. The difference is, like, this is an instrument cable, so it has a center conductor for this positive side here of the connector, the tip. And then the ground, it's a bunch of fine copper wire that's actually woven around, like it perfectly surrounds the center conductor. So this is a shielded cable, and that when they wind it perfectly around, so it's covered, the center conductor, that shields the center. Because if you were to remove that shielding, like let's say I cut this cable and then we just connected a wire for the center, like 3 feet of that, and then I use just like an alligator clip to connect the ground in between where it was cut. If we did that for both of them and just had the center exposed and not shielded, you would have a bunch of noise. You would have interference. You could hear the radio, the signal would come in and get right on that center and go right to the amp and then amplify it. So the speaker cable, nowadays, they use something called a speakon connector, and it's a totally different connector. But back in the day, they didn't. And speaker cables are expensive. So as long as you know what you have, like if it says 18 AWG X2, that means 18 gauge wire times 2, and that's a speaker cable. It'll be like a lamp cord, 2 thicker wires running next to each other, and you don't use those for the input side. Use that for the output, where the power amp, your PA or your amplifier, the cable going from the power amp, whether that's the powered mixer or the guitar amp or whatever it is, going to a speaker cabinet, you need a speaker cable. And back in the day, they used the same connector. And sometimes the connectors are molded. You can't get in, like this, I've got this heat shrink tubing on there, but I can cut that. I can pull that off of there, no problem. And then you unscrew it and you can get in and see, you can physically inspect it and see, okay, this one, it has a center conductor. And then I see the braid that's going to the ground. It comes out and goes all around the center. So this is a shielded cable. So I found myself, we had bought this, it was like a Craigslist type of deal. It was actually Facebook Marketplace. And the woman had put up this ad. I found it right. It was 27 minutes old when I found it. And we went right up there and got it. I was looking for a speaker stand. We have one. The second one we have is kind of janky. It's like homemade. So when the wind blows, the speaker moves, and I didn't like that. I wanted to get a real sturdy stand because it's like like about a 30-pound PA speaker. And again, I don't want to be using the wrong types of cable, because if you use a instrument cable where you should use the power amp cable, you'll be putting strain on the amplifier, and the speaker won't be getting the full benefit of using this big honking cable. This is what it needs. It doesn't need the little guy with the shielding around it. The shielding around it probably provides a little bit better flow of the electrons than the center guy. That's what's really going to impede it and put a load on the amplifier, which anytime there's a load, it's more heat, and it's just not good. So The advertisement, it said PA system, $25. And it had a picture of a speaker stand. And then there was these two little PA speakers. They're Yamaha brand, 8-inch. And on the back, there's a little mixer with the power amp built in on it. And on the back of the other speaker, there's two. There's a panel you pull up, and that's a storage caddy. And the cables are in there. So it had a power cable for the mixer and the power amp. They're built into the same little box. And then there was two cables to hook the speaker cables. And they were different types of cables. The one was thicker, but it was real round, and it had a molded plastic. So the only way I would be able to know is to cut it, and I don't want to cut these molded cables. So I'm like, when they sold it to me, they're like, the PA is blown. And there's these cables here, and I'm thinking, did this guy use the wrong cable and that's why this thing is blown? I don't know. It could be. It could be a combination of it was hot out, they were cranking it, they had it up too loud, and he was using the wrong cable. And it put a load on it, and the thing couldn't take it. So when we got it home, I opened it up, and there's a component that had blown up and split itself in two. So half of this electric, it's called a TOP249YN, and it's like it looks like a TDA 2020, 2030, 2050. If you know what that is. It screws into a heatsink, so it looks like a LM7809, 7805, or whatever, that LM, like a voltage regulator, where it's got a spot for a little metal tab at the top with a hole where you put a fastener in it. You screw it to a heatsink, screw it onto a block of aluminum with fins on it, and then the legs are sticking out of the bottom. This one had 6 legs, and it was split in half. The other half was actually bouncing around in the mixer. So I ordered that part, and it's coming. I don't know when it arrives. Like, I did a good job. I took my time. I used Gutwick or desoldering braid, and I apply flux to that. And I didn't use a really like a 60. It was more like about a 15-watt iron that I used. I mean, it said it was a 60, but it's a Chinese, like a eBay China Direct iron, where they say it's a 60, and it's more like a 15. Long story short, I didn't trust these cables from this guy. I'm thinking, do I want to use these? And like, how do you tell? So the tests that I ended up coming up with, and I realized you can measure them and you can figure out what the gauge wire is and use the multimeter, the ohms test, and see how many feet and what gauge it should be and the impedance. The way that I did it, I set up a guitar amp and a guitar, and I plugged these cables in, and then I had a fan that I know is noisy, and I moved the cable over by the fan, and the one cable that I suspected was an instrument cable, it was dead quiet. The other one, as soon as I plugged it in, and when I moved it over by the fan, it got even louder. So what does that tell me? Well, if it's not a shielded cable and it's thicker, that's a speaker cable. If you can set up a rig like a guitar and a little amp, doesn't have to be a tube amp or anything special. It can be the smallest, crappiest amp. It could be a table radio. It doesn't matter. You just need an amp. You set that up, and then you have another device. Like for me, I know my soldering iron produces a lot of radio frequency interference, RFI. I know this fan also does. So whatever you got, and then you engage that and move the cable over by it, and you see. And in my case, Both of these cables were molded one piece. You couldn't get into the 1/4-inch connector. I couldn't determine, and what I was able to determine from the test was one of these cables was not a speaker cable. It was a insulated instrument cable. The other one, it's a speaker cable. It's fatter, doesn't bend as good, and boy, did I get an unbelievable amount of interference when I plugged it in to use it like a guitar. So it took me, like, I was struggling with this for a while, and like 15 minutes, and then eventually, I was looking up, like, how do you test? And I really didn't find anything. I thought I saw people talking about what the gauge, like the amount of impedance that you should see per foot, per gauge, like charts and stuff. And I'm thinking, man, this is a headache. And then it came to me, just plug it in, don't test it with a power amp and a speaker. Don't test it as a speaker cable. Test it as an instrument cable and see if you get the noise. So that was the way I was able to determine. And like I said, if you saw these cables, you probably would be able to deduce by looking at them and go, yeah, that's an instrument cable, that's a speaker cable. But I wasn't sure. And like, I've made a lot of my own speaker cables. If I see a vacuum cleaner by the side of the road, I get excited because I can grab my snips and cut the cable. Typically, it'll be a real long stretch of really nice, thick, because it's a vacuum. It has a motor. It's going to draw some current. And those, for me, they make wonderful speaker cables. I just use 1/4-inch plugs on mine because when I get PA speakers that have the speakon connectors, I install my own 1/4-inch connectors on them. And I know that's not the good way to do it, but if I'm setting up my PA and I keep all of the speaker cables in a separate bag, it's not a problem. So I thought that might be interesting or helpful. If you guys have your methods of how you determine that, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section. You guys, hopefully we'll be doing a remote here soon. I can't wait to bring this new music to you guys. I think it's good. I think you'll like it. So we'll see you soon. In the meantime, hug your pets. And, well, speaking of that, these speakers, it's a Yamaha Stage PA 300 is the name of the kit. And it came with a huge zipper case. And the guy was like, I'm going to help you carry it. It's because everything was broken. Like the handles were all broken. So we get this huge zipper case where, the speakers have their own handles molded into them. It's like why you would want to put them both in a case and then you have to, well, there's wheels on it. If the handle worked, it makes sense then to use the wheels, I suppose. Anyway, we brought the stuff in, and our cat, Kita, he goes nuts for cases. If it's a gig bag or a gear case, anything like that, he's crawling in it and he loves it, especially if it's black. And especially if it's like nice and he has like velvet or fur in there that matches his fur because he's a black cat. So he's got this thing, we lay it down and it comes up about 18 inches or so. It's like a kitty corral and it's black. And he goes in there and just does burnouts in it. And he's like, his eyes are all wide. It's like, he gets possessed and he's running around in it. We throw his little toy in there and he hissed at my wife. She tried to pet him when he was in there. And he's like, we've had him for a long time. And I think that's the 4th time we've ever heard him hiss. So yeah, this Craigslist deal for this $25 PA system. When that part comes in, I'm going to probably be doing another video. If it works, I'll show you guys how I fix this PA. And I'm going to be just absolutely over the moon if we get this thing working, because it would have been the deal of the century, other than the fact that I only got one good speaker stand with it and one speaker cable. I got an instrument cable, and you know what? I needed one. I was like, I need one for over here so I don't have to keep grabbing this one and moving it back and forth. So, hallelujah. Anyway, hug your pets and